How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, S-H-O-W, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 2.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome. It is Eric Erickson here across America. Delighted to have you with me. The phone number, 877-973-7425. Except by habit, I give you the phone number and I have no call screener today. But if you email contact@ewerickson.com, your voice memo, we might be able to play that on the air. If you're clear, concise, tell us who you are, where you're from, all that good stuff. We need to talk about Pete Buttigieg. Now, I make light of his name. It is an unusual name, Buttigieg. But the reason is because at first, the very first time I ever I tried to use my, the evil woman on my phone, SIRI, whose name I dare not say. I call her Dingus. And I said, hey, Dingus, tweet, and did my tweet. And Pete Buttigieg became Pete Booty Juice. And the second time, it was Pete Buttigieg. And interestingly enough, I commented on this on Twitter that it had gone from Booty Juice to Butter Judge, and I couldn't use the dingus anymore. I was having to type it out every time, and his campaign manager thought it was hysterical and pinged me. It was had very good humor about it. I mean, we don't get along. We disagree on everything, but they could find humor in the fact. I mean, listen. So believe it or not, this will sound off to a number of you, I'm sure, but my last name, Erickson, cannot be pronounced in the South. They can say Eric. Mostly they can say Erickson. But when it is combined in the South, it is Eric Erickson. Eric, and my wife did not believe me until we got married. And I've told her, this has gone on for years now. Told my wife that people can't say Erickson. And sure enough, we get married. She goes to the DMV. Now, my wife's middle name is Lee, L-E-I-G-H. She's named for Vivian Lee. Her mother was a big Gone with the Wind fan, as is my wife. Her name does not come from Robert E. Lee. Some people say, oh, your wife's named after Robert E. Lee. No. My wife is named for Vivian Lee, the actress from Gone with the Wind, L-E-I-G-H. And when my wife went to the DMV, the woman called her up, and my wife just sat there. Miss Erickson, Miss Erickson, Miss Erickson. Finally said, Miss Arnold. Christy went up, and the woman says, ma'am, do you want to be Christy Arnold Erickson, or do you want to be Christy Liege Erickson? And then she knew it was true. Now, I'm going to use the R word, and I need to tell you in advance, and I don't mean to offend anyone. I'm going to use the R word because this is the way it happened, and I'm just telling you the way it happened. Don't be offended by the use of the R word, please, because this is literally what happened to me. This is not my truth. This is the truth. When I was in law school, I was at a Kroger buying beer. And the woman asked me for my driver's license. And I showed her my driver's license, and she looked at me, and she's literally out of her mouth. She says it this way. Eric Erickson, was your mama retarded? Literally says it that way. Literally. And honestly, I immediately fell out laughing. I was not offended in any way, shape, or form. That was one of the funniest things that has ever happened to me in my life. And this woman, she says it just like that and that fast, and then realized that she had said it out loud. And this poor young black lady, you turn 5 shades of white. She was, 1, scared to death. She was about to lose her job. 2, horrified she had said it out loud. And then 3, couldn't understand my reaction. I was laughing so hard. I could not believe she said it, and I found it very, very funny. But also, it was Erica Rickison, not Eric Erickson. She knew it was the same word, but it was Erica Rickison. I got nothing for you people on that. Nothing for you. So I appreciated, and Pete Buttigieg's campaign manager appreciated that I could laugh at his unusual name as my name. Some people, by the way. In fact, I had a friend 3 years into our relationship. In fact, I'll tell you who it was. Ben Domenech, who helped start Red State, one of the original founders. I was not, he was. And Ben is now, he's on Fox News. He's at the roving editor. I forget what his actual title is now, as an editor at The Spectator. Has done great work with that, founded The Federalist, moved to The Spectator, brilliant work at The Spectator. We were 3 years into being friends. I was actually his roommate at one point when I had a commuting job to D.C., and he literally thought that my name was a fake name. Literally, like 3 years in. And turns out that all the other guys at Red State thought my name was a pseudonym. No, my name really is Eric Erickson. So in any event, roundabout way, so Buttigieg can laugh about his name, and I can say boot edge, and everybody kind of gets the joke, and ha, 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 except there's a problem with Buttigieg. When Joe Biden dropped out, I'm not going to name his name because I do like the guy. He's a former reporter, was a higher up at the Associated Press, and I saw his tweet. Kamala Harris and Pete Buttigieg would make an unstoppable ticket or something like that. And I thought, I realize you're now retired and removed from politics, but no rational person could look at the state of the race and think Kamala Harris and Pete Buttigieg would be a winning ticket. Pete Buttigieg is not a thing white people like. Pete Buttigieg is a thing progressive white people like. In fact, there's new polling out. You know what support Pete Buttigieg has in the black community? And this, by the way, is not a single poll. This is multiple polls looking ahead to 2028. You know what support Pete Buttigieg has in the black community across multiple polls? 0%. 0%. Corin Shucker Johnson gets 0.5%. I don't know who Corin Shucker Johnson is. I just made up that name, but literally, like you name a person, and that person will get at least 0.5% in the polling in the black community. Pete Buttigieg gets 0. If you ran a candidate for president in the Democratic Party, and you named him Jefferson Davis, John C. Calhoun, Andrew Jackson, Stalin, Hitler, he would get at least 0.5%. Pete Buttigieg gets 0%. He is a thing, a person uniquely only progressive white people like. And yet there's this infatuation in the American media. Why? Because they are progressive white people. They love Pete Buttigieg in the American Press Corps, which shows you just how far left and how lily white the American Press Corps is. Pete Buttigieg is attacking the Trump administration because they've rolled back a Biden regulation that will require airlines to reimburse you for travel disruptions. And you're thinking, this is a terrible thing. Why on earth would the Trump administration do this? Do you know why? Because let me give you the dirty little secret. The regulation wasn't about actually reimbursing you. It was about driving up the costs to the airlines. Everything Pete Buttigieg did as Secretary of Transportation, you must understand, was done to advance progressive goals. They elevated the hiring of non-white candidates for the FAA, causing a job shortage, a hiring shortage at the FAA, because diversity was more important than filling the positions. They actually are losing a federal lawsuit on discrimination because they refused to hire white people. It was to advance the DEI goal. The travel disruption payment requirement was actually for global warming. It wasn't to actually benefit you. It was cast as that. It was very, very clever because a lot of people bought it. Oh, they care about me as a consumer. No. You know what the net result was? It drove up the cost to fly. You as a passenger wound up paying more. And because you wound up paying more, you were less likely to take a vacation. In addition to inflation and energy prices, this fee that airlines were required to reimburse you for drove up the cost of a ticket so that you flew less. If for the same reason, they didn't want to upgrade air traffic control. They didn't want to fix the ATC. They didn't want to do the upgrades. Why? Because as one aviation industry insider, a CEO of a major airline, said on background, in a meeting, Pete Buttigieg said, why would I do that? That would put more planes in the sky. Literally, Pete Buttigieg to an airline CEO said, why would I do this? It would put more planes in the sky. The entire job that Pete Buttigieg had as Secretary of Transportation was to drive up the costs of anything that contributed to global warming, and flying on an airplane, unless you flew private to climate change summits, drove up the cost. That's why he did it. You as the consumer were duped. They were saying, oh, we're going to reimburse you. Let's think about this. If an act of nature causes your flight to be delayed, they were going to have to reimburse you because the weather was bad. How is that fair to the business? They didn't cause the storm. When the snowstorm comes through, how is it fair to them? You're thinking, oh, I don't care about them. I care about me. Yeah, okay, but what does it do? Then it drives up their costs. They still have to put you on the plane, and yet they have to reimburse you for the disruption. It sounds great to you and me because we're greedy people too, but it actually just drove up your ticket price. They had to account in the economics of flying that cost that might happen, and so all of our tickets went up. So it priced the middle class and the poor out of flying, which Pete Buttigieg wanted to do because he wanted fewer people on planes, because he wanted less planes in the sky. He didn't want to upgrade ATC because that would put more planes in the sky. Those were his words, not mine, to an airline industry insider. They didn't want to fix aviation. They wanted it to break down, because if it broke down, if it slowed down, if they were over capacity, if they drove up prices, if they passed on the cost to you, it kept you out of the sky. And if it kept you out of the sky, it reduced the number of planes in the sky. And if it reduced the number of planes in the sky, it reduced global warming emissions. Everything he did as Secretary of Transportation was about DEI and climate change. The push for battery-powered vehicles, climate change. The reason they couldn't do massive, broad transportation infrastructure spending is because of the diversity grants. You had to have so many non-white people, so many disabled people, so many people of various colors and handicaps and IQs and religions and everything else in order to get it all done. And so nothing got done. And by not expanding the roads, they kept cars off the roads, and it helped global warming. Everything was done through that lens. So Pete Buttigieg is coming out today and attacking the Trump administration for rolling back this Biden-era regulation that required travelers whose travel was disrupted to be reimbursed. You know what it's going to do? It's going to lower your costs now. It's going to make it cheaper for you to fly. It's going to put more planes in the air, along with the upgrades that Sean Duffy's doing to the transportation system. It sounds like it hurts you, but it's actually going to lower costs, because here's also the dirty truth. Yes, all of us have had travel delays. All of us have been inconvenienced. I see people all the time online go, American Airlines sucks, Delta sucks, United sucks. They did this to me. They were unresponsive. I got stranded at this airport. My plane was delayed. It happens to every single person. You are not unique or special in your travel problems. All of us have it happen. It's part of flying. There's this thing called weather. There are breakdowns. You know what? Delta, I had to fly to Jacksonville. Couldn't drive, had to fly. The plane broke. My flight was supposed to leave at 7 p.m. It left after 10 p.m. I didn't get to my hotel until after midnight the next day. I was flying back to Atlanta. There was such bad weather in Atlanta. Our plane that was supposed to leave at 5 p.m. did not leave until 8 p.m. I was extremely disrupted. My whole schedule was disrupted. You know what I didn't do? I didn't get online and complain that there was a plane broken down. They couldn't help it. The pilot explained it. The mechanic explained it. They couldn't help the situation. They did their best to fix the situation. The pilot hung out with the passengers stranded in the concourse, explaining the situation, trying to get people rebooked if they needed to be rebooked. The pilot, the co-pilot, even the mechanic went over and aboard, making a bad night acceptable because everyone knew they were in on it together. It wasn't their fault. Nothing could be done. They did their best. It was model customer service for something not going well. Things sometimes don't go well in aviation. I would rather than be cautious and get a plane in the sky that's going to stay there than one that's going to fall out of the sky. Pete Buttigieg preyed on your fears and your complaints to make you think that you were being done a good by the Biden administration, and you weren't, because what you didn't see is all the costs of all the tickets for all people traveling went up as a result. And the reason they did it was not to make your life convenient and to reimburse you for disruption, but to drive up the cost of ticket prices, to discourage you from getting in the air and make it more unaffordable to you, because it wasn't about you. It was about climate change, and they just couldn't be honest.
Hi, I'm Chris Gethard, and I'm very excited to tell you about Beautiful Anonymous, a podcast where I talk to random people on the phone. I tweet out a phone number, thousands of people try to call. We talk to one of them, they stay anonymous, I can't hang up, that's all the rules. I never know what's going to happen. We get serious ones. I've talked with meth dealers on their way to prison. I've talked to people who survived mass shootings. Crazy funny ones. I talked to a guy with a goose laugh, somebody who dresses up as a pirate on the weekends. I never know what's going to happen. It's a great show. Subscribe today, Beautiful Anonymous.
Hello there. It is Eric Erickson here. I got to jump back to the BLS guy because this has dropped now and is starting to get some attention. The Trump administration is standing by E.J. Antoni. He's the Heritage Foundation economist, 37 years old. They want to put in charge of the Bureau of Labor Statistics. He's got to go through a Senate confirmation. This is from Andy Kaczynski at CNN. President Trump's nominee to lead the BLS operated a since-deleted Twitter account that featured sexually degrading attacks on Kamala Harris, derogatory remarks about gay men, conspiracy theories, and crude insults aimed at critics of President Trump. An outspoken critic of the nonpartisan Bureau of Labor Statistics, which calculates U.S. job growth and unemployment figures, Antoni is a staunch Trump loyalist and has positioned himself as a watchdog. In 2019, the since-deleted account known as Erwin John Antoni changed its username to PhD of Bombs Away. The account posed at least 5 sexually suggestive tweets implying Senator Harris advanced her career through sexual favors. Well, so have I. And then he also referred to Christine Blasey Ford as Miss Piggy, and other things. So, sounds like he's a bro with a Twitter account. Okay. Now, I got to tell you about Swiss America because they want to tell you about the secret war on cash and how you can avoid it and protect your finances. They are the nation's trusted leader in precious metals and have been for 40 years. Rated A+ by the Better Business Bureau, and you can get their report, The Secret War on Cash, completely for free. It takes less than 15 minutes to read. It can save on your retirement finances. And by the way, this applies to cryptocurrency as well. Get your free copy by calling or texting 800-289-2646. That's 800-289-2646. The All-Out War on Cash, as I said, it includes digital forms of currency, and essentially it's the government trying to force you to use cards for purchases so they can track and monitor you. Get the copy. All you have to do is text my name, Eric, E-R-I-C-K, to the phone number 800-289-2646. You can also go to SwissAmerica.com/Eric to get it, SwissAmerica.com/ERICK, or call or text my name to 800-289-2646. Message and data rates may apply. Greetings, conversationalists. It's Eric Erickson here. If you want to be on the program today, you can email a voice memo to contact@EWErickson, EWErickson.com, EWERICKSON.com, contact@EWErickson.com. In fact, I've got one I want to play for you because it is perfect timing for this. He had no idea I was going to talk about it, but Robert, calling from Pinehurst, North Carolina.
This is Robert from Pinehurst. I hope you'll consider the influence of the AP Style book on the reason for media bias. For instance, take 2 questions. The first question is, should transgender women be included in women's sports? The second question is, should men be included in women's sports? They're actually the same question, but the AP Style book wants you to ask the first question. The problem is that the AP style book considers women to be women if they think they're women. So when we say, should transgender women be considered in women's sports, many people think, well, all women should be included in women's sports and we should not discriminate. But that's the problem. And the AP style book is a real problem because it governs the way most written media and a lot of vocal media organizes its thoughts and its stories. I hope you'll consider whether it's proper for the media to follow the AP style book.
Listen, Robert, first of all, I will let you know next time I go to Pinehurst. Second, you're absolutely right. Although, which comes first, the chicken or the egg? And in this situation, which comes first, the bias or the AP style book? And the bias comes first, which is then added to the AP style book, and editors use the AP style book as an enforcer. By the way, the AP style book also changed homelessness to unhoused. It was the AP style book that pushed reporters to use pregnant person, to avoid exclusionary language, things like that. And yes, the transgender issue. Now, I bring up Robert's point because Malcolm Gladwell is in the news today. Malcolm Gladwell is the prolific writer, thinker, and I want you to listen to this video he posted. He very famously, at a conference, came out in favor of men and women's sports. And he's changed his mind, and it turns out Malcolm Gladwell isn't changing his mind. Malcolm Gladwell admits he had been bullied.
If we did a replay of that exact panel at the Sloan Conference this coming March, it runs in exactly the opposite direction. And it would be, I suspect, near unanimity in the room that trans athletes have no place in the female category. I don't think there's any question. I just think it was a strange. The reason I'm ashamed of my performance at that panel because I share your position 100%, and I was cowed. The idea of saying anything on this issue, I was I believe in retrospect, in a dishonest way. I was objective in a dishonest way.
What does he mean by he was bullied? He was cowed. He was bullied. He felt the pressure of his peer group, or who he thought were his peers, to lie to people and to essentially perform. He vehemently came out in defense of men and women's sports. He lied. He didn't believe it, and he's admitting it now. I'm glad he is. Because I have to tell you, a lot of people are in the same boat. Not only are they in the same boat, I regularly exchange notes with a very senior prominent person in the tech community who is very progressive. Many of you would know who I'm talking about. Probably most of you would. We have a private interaction. I wouldn't say it's a friendship. We just trade notes every once in a while, often about Apple stuff. And he has for years, in private, said, you gotta win this fight. You gotta win this fight. This is nuts. I can't say anything about it. You don't understand what would happen to me if I spoke up and told people what I really thought about it. There's a climate of fear. It's a ruthless totalitarianism coming from the left on this issue. Why? So let's step back for just a minute. I don't want to go too deep in the weeds here, but one of the things that comes from critical theory is that the way you change reality is you stifle conversation that contradicts you, so that your words become supreme, because reality is controlled by words. So we don't talk a lot about critical theory these days. We feel like we've won it. We haven't. But critical theory is derived from postmodern Marxism. What is postmodernism? Postmodernism emotions trump rationality. Your truth trumps the truth. There's no such thing as objective truth. That all derives from Marxism. Karl Marx's political philosophy is that words have power. Now, of course, a guy who was a writer would believe that. But Marx believed that you could marshal words to rewrite truth. And the way that you did it is that you silenced dissent. We see this on the right as well. Look at the number of people who hate my guts for daring to question my own side. People are very tribal these days. This allows critical theory to take role. We see progressives on the right as well as the left. And one of the things that you see with progressivism is a bullying. They can't debate. They don't want to debate. They don't think they have to debate. They want to silence. They want to bully. They want to condemn. You see it on the right, too. You see it more on the left, but you see it on the right. Progressives on the right, they want to use the state. They want to use bullying techniques. They want to silence people. It's the same with the left. Transgenderism lives in that totalitarian space of critical theory that believes that to subvert the dominant paradigm, that's the language they use, you've got to silence people at the top. That's why free speech is bad. That's why academic freedom is bad. That's why they hate that all. But now here's the corollary. Malcolm Gladwell is now saying that he was bullied. There are people on the right who are attacking Malcolm Gladwell for now admitting the truth. They can't just say, thank you for now telling the truth. We're sorry you were bullied. They're now lecturing him and they're hectoring him. How dare you? We stood up. We told the truth. I am the virtuous person. Someone said it was unforgivable what he did. Apparently, it was worse than Christ being crucified on the cross because there Jesus could say, Father, forgive them, but this is unforgivable. Apparently, this person has been afflicted worse than Christ on the cross if he finds Malcolm Gladwell's actions unforgivable. I'm not saying this to puff myself up, and I know some of you are going to think that, and I'm not. I'm taking the Christian view here. When the sinner repents and converts, all the angels rejoice. When the person who denied Christ says, I was wrong, the church does not stand up and say, we were right the whole time. Look at you. You were mean to us. You were cruel to us. You lied to prop up your station in life. Screw you. Welcome. You don't do that. When C.S. Lewis was asked by a group of religious scholars at Oxford, what was the difference between Christianity and the other religions? Because they were all sitting around, they were arguing about the religions, and one had Allah, one had Buddha, one had Vishnu, all these religions, but ultimately at the end of the day, they were all the same religions, just repackaged in various ways. And so Christianity was too. And Lewis said, wrong. Christianity has grace. No other religion has grace. The secular world sure as hell does not have grace. Every religion has mercy, sparing people from what they deserve. Only Christianity gives people what they do not deserve. You do not deserve salvation. All of you fall short, myself included. We all fall short of the glory of God. We all, like sheep, have gone astray. And yet, because this guy sacrificed himself for us and conquered death, we can have life if we just have a relationship with him, put our trust in him. And if we, who deserve the fire, escape it because of another man's sacrifice, we have no right to condemn Malcolm Gladwell when he sees the truth. Instead, we should celebrate. And yet a lot of people on social media want to gloat, want to puff themselves up, say, I did this. I stood up. I was brave. I was bold. I was the truth teller. Welcome, you person who are a horrible person. I was brave and I was punished because I spoke out. Malcolm Gladwell's going to be punished too for speaking out now. Malcolm Gladwell is going to lose. Yeah, he's coming out now when he feels the tide has turned. He can now say what he always believed because he thinks there will be less cost to him, but there will still be cost. There will be cost from people who no longer trust what he says. There will be costs from people who never liked him. There will be costs from people who trusted him and now feel betrayed. There will be costs to Malcolm Gladwell because he's speaking out. There will be less social costs now because more people are willing to speak out and say transgenderism is a mental health issue. There will be more people willing to speak up now, though, because of Malcolm Gladwell. Because Malcolm Gladwell at his station in life can stand up and say, I was bullied into a position I didn't believe on. Other people can now come out. But if you're condemning Malcolm Gladwell, if you're saying what he did is unforgivable, if you're puffing yourself up and using Malcolm Gladwell and say, I was always in this position. Welcome to the position, you jerk, you liar. You're going to discourage other people from joining your side. All the angels of heaven rejoice when the scoundrel embraces the Christ. You're a scoundrel too. Malcolm Gladwell has just embraced the truth. He's willing to say he was bullied. This piling on from the people on our side who have always said what he now says, I think just discourages others. Why bother? Why bother changing your mind if you're now going to be attacked? This is something I see over and over on Twitter. It's like people who come to terms with Donald Trump over time, and I went through this myself when I supported him in 2020. Well, welcome to the party. Get to the back of the line. You were wrong the whole time. Why should we trust you now? You're still never Trump. I can't tell you the number of times because I'll criticize him. You're just always never Trump. You don't really believe it when you praise him. If there's anything I certainly should have a reputation for telling you exactly what I think. Sometimes it costs to me. I've lost radio stations because of my criticisms of Donald Trump. I can support him but criticize him, and some people just can't handle being multifaceted. And it's the people who, the true believers, they were always there. Screw you for changing your mind and being on our side now. Christianity is the only religion with grace. And I think that those of us who have long said men should not be in women's sports, like the angels of heaven welcoming the convert who persecuted the Christians, we should be willing to welcome Malcolm Gladwell and say thank you for being public. Thank you for recognizing the bullying. Thank you for saying you were cowed by others. Please encourage others to also speak up. I appreciate you've gotten where you are now. And again, I will just say, because I find it very convicting myself when I heard a seminary professor say it, if you are like some of the people today saying what he did was unforgivable, we're glad he changed his mind, but screw him, we can never forgive him for what he did, you are saying that what happened to you by taking a position on transgenderism is worse than what happened to Jesus of Nazareth, who was nailed to a cross, crucified and killed for the sins of the world, who in his dying breath said, Father, forgive them, they know not what they do. Christ could forgive and you can't? Are you more Christ-like than Jesus Christ? I think not. Maybe you should reconsider whether or not you can forgive Malcolm Gladwell for changing his mind and speaking truth. Hello there. Welcome. It's Eric Erickson here. The phone number doesn't matter today because there's no call screener. So the phone number we cannot worry about, but if you want to email contact@ewerickson.com, a voice memo, you can do that. The Epstein saga continues. The Republicans and Democrats say they're going to take advantage of the speech and debate clause, which prevents members of Congress from being sued for their claims on the floor of the House of Representatives, and they're going to read the names of the Epstein victim or the Epstein perpetrators. The victims apparently have gotten together now, and they're talking privately. So we'll see. We'll see what happens if any of them are sued because they were paid money to keep quiet. That's actually the problem here, is that many of the survivors were paid large sums of money by very wealthy people to not say anything ever. So we'll see what happens with the lawsuits. Man, the amount of the lawsuits would be very. I think the climate, we're at the climate now where if the victims name names and those men sue them, those men, not the victims, will be destroyed. The truth will set the victims free. Now, of course, you know that you had that guy who claims that, well, they're going to redact the names of the Republicans. Do you really believe that Ro Khanna, one of the most progressive members of the House, who says he will work with Thomas Massie to release the names, do you really think he cares? Do you really think he cares about the Department of Justice redacting names? It's not going to be the Department of Justice. It's going to be the actual victims. Thomas Massey, the Republicans are primarying Thomas Massey. Do you really think that Thomas Massey cares about naming other Republicans? Really? No, he doesn't care at all. So, I mean, if you want to believe, I got to tell you, I want to go online. I want to start like a Hinge account or something, or you name it, and pretend to be some government insider who goes on some Project Veritas date and says, my job is actually to cause car crashes at intersections. I'm actually paid by the government to cause car crashes. You know what I do? My job is to paint the rainbow crosswalks and then monitor the kids so we can arrest the kids, because if we arrest the kids and we throw them in jail, they can't breed, and we can solve the population crisis. And my gosh, it will be treated as true, because I said I want to do that so badly. My goodness, might as well. Everybody wants a conspiracy theory these days. It's like I get so aggravated with the Democrats saying you can't trust a Republican who supports the Second Amendment because they're paid off by the NRA, and now along come the Robert F. Kennedy supporters. We can't trust anybody in Congress on pharmaceuticals because they got paid by Big Pharma. So I guess we can't trust Republicans on gun control because they were paid off by gun manufacturers. That's the way. It's the same logic. Why does it work with one and not with the other? Because you like the one and not the other? All the conspiracy theories. Big Pharma has saved more people than any of the people carrying conspiracy theories. And by the way, not only do I not take Big Pharma money, they don't even advertise on my program. Who does is Vision Computer, and they would love to build you a computer. They can build you a computer, make it more efficient for you, make it faster for you. They can upgrade your existing computer. They can even be your managed IT service. Managed IT. All you have to do is go to wrong website, wrong It's a Friday, people. Call them at 404-COMPUTE. Let them build a computer for you. Let them manage your IT services. If you're a company, your managed IT service, if you don't have in-house IT, I bet you your employees have to file tickets, email tickets, or do a chat AI. With Vision, you get a phone number. You call them 15 seconds or less. Someone answers the computer. So your uptime is increased. Your downtime is decreased. Your employee productivity goes up. And they don't have to worry about trying to navigate an IT email system and try to explain it, and maybe the option's not there. They call a person, that person remotes in, they fix the computer, you keep going. Your uptime is increased, downtime decreased. Call them at 404-COMPUTE. You have nothing to lose, and they might save you money. 404-COMPUTE or visioncomputers.com. Check them out today, visioncomputers.com.